Well, we know the difference in them offensively this year. They don't have Kenneth Walker, and Kenneth Walker was he covered up so much. He took pressure off the quarterback, right? He helped protect the defense. Now both are exposed. Setting Kenneth Walker aside, what's the biggest difference you see last year to this year in the Michigan State defense?
Yeah, I don't know if you can set Kenneth Walker aside again. I think he was huge to help their defense, but they're not getting as much pass rush. They might be covering a little better, a little bit, okay. But last year they got more pass rush, so they still got big numbers on them. But at least the back end could count on them getting to the quarterback a little bit more often. But I think the issues I see with them, and these are just things as a coach the conclusion that I've drawn is they're basically a quarters team, very much like D'Antonio, right? But they play more coverages. Where with the old Michigan State was a quarters team and mixed in occasional variations off quarters, and once in a while a different concept of coverage. This team plays quarters and a bunch of other coverages. Certain games they play more of another. If you watch the Maryland game, they're playing almost cover four exclusively. But then if you watch the Minnesota game, they're in one high defense almost the whole game. You watch the Ohio State game, they're playing a lot of quarters coverage, but you watch the Wisconsin game, they're playing every coverage you could imagine. But and we talked about this a little bit last year with Vance, is it's difficult to me, and again, I'm an offensive coach, but talking to defensive, to play match quarters, which is a lot of maintenance coaching wise, and then mix in a ton of other coverages and expect to be good at match quarters or anything. And I think they're suffering from a little bit of that. But because they're struggling so much to stop the pass, Sam, they feel compelled to give you more looks. But with more looks, there's some sacrifice in execution. That's one conclusion that I drew. And the other one is that their safety play with regard to coverages is shaky. The safeties, when they're forced to do a lot of covering man-to-man, and they like to play cover one. So those safeties have got to do some covering. And their corners are solid players, but not by any means lockdown guys. Okay, they make some nice plays, but they get beat some. Well, you put that all together, and then of the loss of some pass rush, and a lot of that too. If you really research them, they have had some injuries. In fairness to them, they've had a lot of guys get hurt. But just those two things are a recipe for disaster in terms of trying to stop a good passing team.
So they were successful in slowing, and it's all relative. It's not like they shut Michigan's run game down, but relative to expectations,
Yeah,
what you had
relative to
seen
what
from
they've been doing, I think would
yeah,
be probably
yeah, you thought Michigan was gonna roll right over them, and that didn't happen in this game. In this game last year, do you feel like the O line, D line, run game, run defense matchup is more in Michigan's favor this year than it was last year?
I don't think there's any doubt it is. But again, that X factor, that X factor of them playing above their head. But yeah, I think that Michigan's offensive line, first of all, to me, is better. With Timmy in there, with and again, I don't know what Trente's situation is. But those guys, I think they're just better. Are they a ton better? I don't know how much. You decide that yourself. But I think they've upped the ante athletically. We've said that already. Blake Corum is on a roll, Sam. He's on a roll. He's creating an explosive or two, maybe three every game. And add to that Donovan Edwards, who's always a threat in so many ways. Their tight ends have been solid, blocking at the point of attack. And again, I'm just talking about from a running perspective right now. They've been very solid, even with the loss of Eric Hall. I think they have not missed a beat, in my opinion. So that matchup on paper looks pretty good for Michigan, better than even last year. Okay. But again, that X factor on how hard Michigan State's going to play and the things they bring to the table, that game particularly, I think you always have to consider.